everybody, welcome back to the Golden Bolt. This week we're going to tackle the other Mario 2, Mario 2 USA. Hey, it's a bad game. Now, I could go the easy way and say, most of you already know that Mario USA was actually a reskin version of a game known as Doki Doki Panic. But I'm not going to do that, you know me. Let's go back even deeper. In early 1986, around the same time that Mario 2, Lost Levels Mario 2, was being made, Kensuke Tanabe, now known for his work on the Metroid Prime series, was creating a concept for a more vertical Mario game, with a focus on grabbing objects. In his concept, he included a two-player co-op mode, where players could grab and throw one another to progress through the stages. The co-op couldn't materialize, however, because the concept was too technically demanding for the Famicom. Nintendo also felt that it was straying a bit too much from the Mario formula, so eventually more horizontal levels were thrown into the mix too. However, around this time, the Fuji Television Company came to Nintendo with a request. They were planning this big media celebration in the summer of 1987, and they wanted Nintendo to make a video game using their company's mascots. The decision was made to convert the concept from a Mario game into what would become Doki Doki Panic. Around the same time, Nintendo of America had turned down the release of Lost Levels stateside, fearing that the game would actually damage Nintendo's brand due to its frustrating design. With America still coming fresh off the heels of the video game crash, that was too risky a proposition. Nintendo of America requested that another Mario game be sent over soon. Nintendo of Japan then reskinned Doki Doki Panic as a Mario game, and in late 1988, 3 years after Super Mario Bros. 1 released, Super Mario Bros. 2 released in America. While the story of Mario 1 and Lost Levels barely existed, the story of Mario 2 USA actually doesn't exist. Like literally, it's a dream. At the beginning of the game, we're told that in Mario's sleep, he, Luigi, Toad, and Peach travel to a dream world known as Subcon to stop Wart's reign of terror. Who's Wart? Who cares? They beat him and Mario wakes up from his fever dream before falling right back asleep. Again, as will be the theme of the NES Mario games, I'm not going to write the story here. Remember how I said that Mario 2 USA was a reskin Doki Doki Panic? Well, throw away everything you thought you knew about Mario, we're starting with a clean slate here. There's no coin collecting, no blocks, no jumping on enemies to defeat them, you have a health meter, and instead of flagpoles, there are birds that eat you. Wait, what? Yeah. Alright, let me go back a bit. Mario USA's central mechanic is grabbing things, something Mario actually couldn't do up until this game. Instead of jumping on enemies to defeat them, you can pull turnips or other vegetables out of the ground to throw at them. Hell, if you want to, you can even jump on them yourself and pull them... what? How does that even... This game is weird. When pulling roots out of the ground, you can actually find other things too, such as 1-ups or bombs, making their first appearance in this game, or even this beaker of red stuff, which opens a doorway to subspace. When you go through the doorway, the world turns dark and is mirrored, and you can pull weeds out of the ground to get coins. These coins are used in the slot machine at the end of each level for free 1-ups. Also in subspace, if you place the doorway at the right spot in the level, you can find super mushrooms to increase your health. Yeah, Mario has health now, and it's represented by these red rupees on the left-hand side of the screen. Players who really explore each level can get up to 4 hits, giving this game a greater incentive for the player to explore or replay the game. When you're on your last hit point, your character of choice becomes small, just like in Mario 1. But the player can regain lost health by grabbing these hearts that occasionally float upward on the screen. It's a weird mechanic by Mario standards, but I actually kinda like this. Sadly, you lose any extra hit points you have at the end of each level, which brings you back down to 2. In between each level, you can choose between the 4 playable characters, each with their own unique attributes. There's vanilla old Mario, Luigi with his usual traction problems and high jump, Toad, who is really fast and for some reason really strong, but can't jump to save his life, and Peach, the game's easy mode. Peach is slower and she grabs things slowly, but she can float for a small amount of time while in midair. Since the levels aren't on a timer in this game, Peach being slow doesn't matter at all. Personally, I swap between Luigi and Peach depending on how tightly I need to platform. Each character also has a super jump, which you can perform by holding down on the D-pad until your character starts glowing. Then, next time you jump, your character will jump significantly higher in the air. You have to remain stationary before jumping though, otherwise you'll lose the charge. Now wait, I'm sure you're asking yourself, if there's no timer and coins are no longer floating everywhere, what's the point? What's there to collect? Well, honestly, nothing really. There are these floating cherries in most levels, and when you collect 5, a Starman will appear to give you invincibility, but that's it really. The levels are usually much longer than in Mario 1 or Lost Levels, and instead of a focus on finishing each level faster to get a high score, the focus is on exploring and finding every hidden bonus possible. The levels are still mostly linear, don't get me wrong, but they're much less a left-right sort of linear like was mandatory in the previous 2 games. For one, you can move left. Moving right doesn't lock the screen and make it impossible for you to go back anymore. On top of this, there's an increased sense of verticality in Mario USA as well, with levels making ample use of the real estate above and below you as well as in front of you. This makes the game feel more like a grand adventure as opposed to a trek from A to B. Some characters also have alternate paths that they can or can't get to, encouraging you to go back as other characters later on. Many of these are just doorways to get to the exit faster, but it creates the illusion of a bigger game here, and it works. There are also rooms hidden inside these jars at some points, and they usually carry hidden bonuses inside. Some mandatory doors are locked and require the player to find a key to bring it back. Excuse me? Why is that mask moving? Why is he chasing me? No. Please, get away. No. That thing right there is Phanto, and he is the guardian of every key in Subcon, apparently. If you take his key, he'll hunt you down, and not just in that one room either. He'll follow you from room to room. It's actually kind of unsettling, and he's the only enemy I can think of in an NES game that actually will chase you between sections. Anyway, let me get back on track here. When you get to the end of each level, you normally have to fight Birdo, who spits eggs and fireballs at you. You have to land on the eggs and throw them back at Birdo to kill him. Yes, him. Birdo is a guy who thinks he's a girl. Who'd have thought Nintendo of all companies would be tackling gender identity in the 1980s? Fun fact, Birdo's name in Japan is Catherine, but he's still a guy there too. Huh. Catherine. Anyway, when you kill Birdo, he drops a pearl? Then when you grab the pearl, this eagle door opens its mouth and swallows you? You know what? Whatever, I'm not even gonna question it. At the end of each world is a boss, such as Mouser, who throws bombs at you that you have to catch and throw back at him. The bosses are easily the weakest part of this game to me. The bombs that you throw back at Mouser, for example, have such a small hitbox that oftentimes he'll run right through the explosion and not take damage. It makes these bits a contest of patience, and it takes much longer than it has any real right to with these bosses. Thank God they did get rid of level timers. Hell, even with Birdo I occasionally have problems. For some reason you can't actually duck under his attacks, even though it looks like any character can easily duck under them. I died a good several times because I kept forgetting you can't actually dodge this way. Even with Wart, the fight is a bit underwhelming. After a grueling final level where you make your way through an insanely labyrinthine castle and fight one of those bird-faced doors, you get to Wart's chamber. He takes 7 hits to kill, but you have to catch vegetables out of this vegetable machine and throw them into his mouth. Wait, what? If he's weak to vegetables, why does he have a vegetable machine in his bedroom? That'd be like Superman sleeping with a kryptonite teddy bear. While the bosses are mostly forgettable, Mario USA introduces a bunch of other Mario staples in the regular enemies, such as characters like Pokies, Bob-ombs, and Shy Guys. It's amazing to me that all these features came out of the black sheep of the franchise, let alone a game that wasn't even a Mario title when it first released. Possibly my favorite introduction though is checkpoints. Because these levels are often quite long, the game automatically saves your progress as you get through the levels, usually whenever you enter a new room. It's not a huge thing by any means, but it's one of the first games to really implement some sort of on-the-fly checkpoint system, and to me that's incredibly important. It's something that nobody ever really notices about Mario 2, and it's something that everybody seems to take for granted. Now at this point I'm sure you're thinking, well, this game must be perfect then with how he's describing it. Well, no. As I noted earlier, collision detection has some issues. Sometimes you'll take a hit because you weren't standing perfectly on an enemy to be able to grab him. Additionally, the mechanics of the game never feel quite right, so you'll find yourself second guessing your jumps and dying a lot. Some levels can also turn into labyrinths, and every so often it feels like some levels are made specifically with one character in mind. If you're playing as another character, you're in for some needless frustration. Plus, the game actually has fewer levels than Mario 1 or Lost Levels, clocking in at only 20 levels split up between 7 worlds. Given the length of all 3 games are comparable to me because of how well Mario 2 masks its short runtime. All in all though, by the time you're done with Mario USA, you definitely feel like you've gone on an adventure. The locales are insanely varied, especially compared to the previous 2 games. Every level feels legitimately different, with a new challenge awaiting the player at every turn. With well over a dozen enemy types spread across 7 truly distinct worlds, from deserts where you ride magic carpets, to a world in the clouds, to an ice world where you run across whales? Wait, no. No, not again, no! Yes, the adventure can get tiring and frustrating, but to me that actually makes it feel more like an adventure than just a video game. I'm by no means a fan of the mechanics a lot of the time, and the game definitely has its flaws, but I have to reward it for being so ambitious and so well tuned thematically. I can't rightfully give it a golden bolt due to the infuriating bosses and often unreliable mechanics, but to me this Mario, as odd as it is, surprisingly has the best mechanics of the 3 I've reviewed so far. I'm gonna give it a silver bolt. This game is weird. That's the best way I can really describe it in a few words. The art style, by comparison to Mario 1, is odd, with decidedly unpolished character models for all the playable characters and some of the enemies even. I can only assume that's a consequence of the game effectively being reskinned twice, but it still looks a little jarring to me whenever I see one of the characters running across the screen. Most of the enemy designs are fine, great even. I love how much character the enemies seem to have in this game, and how many of them there are. From now iconic designs like Shy Guys and Sniffits to more random but amazing appearances like Jumping Snakes and Hold the Phone. That is a Shy Guy riding an ostrich. That's it. I love this game. This is the perfect game. You can never get better than this. I'm gonna go back to gameplay right now, give it a gold bolt. Ding! I love the level design for this game too, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. There's something about it that just feels right. At times the colors do seem a tad too in your face, and that gives an amateur looking feel to the visuals. But to me, that adds to the charm actually, as if it's part of the dream for there to be this surreal, bright world surrounding you. The game can also have some frame rate issues if there are too many enemies on screen at once, and in general it's not exactly what I'd call a polished game. Most of the time these occurrences are rare, but they happen just enough to get on my nerves. The music isn't much to write home about though. The songs, at least to me, feel like they're almost knockoff Mario songs. Like the rest of the game, something is just a little off here. That's surprising to me considering Koji Kondo still did the music. I can only assume that these songs were a holdover from the Doki Doki Panic days, and that Kondo changed the style to fit that game, not knowing that it eventually became a Mario game again. The most notable song in the bunch is actually the Subspace theme, which is the classic Mario overworld theme for some reason. Well, the Warp Fight theme is also notable because that song is just great. Otherwise though, they're all just kinda there to me. I mean, at least they're inoffensive, but I expect a little bit more from Mario. While I personally like the visuals, I know they're not for everybody. It's still jarring to look at this as a Mario game sometimes because of how odd the game looks. And because of that and the average soundtrack, I can only give the game a silver bolt for its presentation. Well, first things first, this is one of the most replayable Mario games out there because of the 4 playable characters. With tons of little secrets waiting for the player and a much different experience from character to character, it's on a whole different level than the first 2 Mario games in this regard. However, that comes with a small caveat that the mechanics definitely aren't for everybody. If you're looking to play a normal Mario game, this isn't the game for you really. It's definitely the black sheep of the mainline 2D series to me, and I know from experience just how jarring this game can be at first. However, if you are a fan of Mario and you're willing to experiment a bit, definitely give this game a shot. It's a strange one to say the least, but it's so unique that I feel you'd be doing yourself a disservice to skip out on this one. Like the previous 2 games, you can find Mario 2 USA on the Nintendo eShop for $5, and at that price it really can't hurt to try it out. Alright guys, that's it for Mario 2 USA. Like I said, it's definitely a solid... Why? Like I said, Mario 2 USA is definitely the black sheep of the franchise, but it's still a really enjoyable game. That said, we're going to move on and end our NES Mario Marathon with Mario 3. This is Sonic 3, isn't it?